Welcome back to the Relentless Runners podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Toni.
And we are your co-hosts and your co-founders of Relentless Runners. And we're in a mood today. We're in a mood and we're going to work with it and we're going to use it.
Yep. Before we get into it, though, of course, we have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Destination Marathons. So Destination Marathons is a runner-founded, IATAN certified boutique travel agency, and they specialize in elevated experiences for runners and spectators. They set themselves apart from other travel tour operators by ensuring guests have a VIP experience in each destination. And Christine and I, as you know at this point, we're going to Grandma's Marathon this June, and we're super excited. We shared, I think, a few weeks ago that Dakota Lindworm is going to be leading the Shakeout Run, which is so exciting too. I cannot wait to meet her. But if you're interested in going, I believe they still have bibs available for the half and full marathon. So even though it says that everything is sold out, just know you still have access to bibs through them. So if you're interested, you can reach out. They do handle all the logistical details of each trip so their guests can focus on the race, build friendships, and create memories. You handle the race and they handle the rest. But since you guys are amazing listeners to our podcast, you get to use a code RelentlessDM50 and to save $50 on your next race weekend. And if you want to learn a little bit more about whether it's the Grandma's package, I mean, they have ones for literally like tons of the world majors and stuff like that. You can visit them at destination-marathons.com. Christine, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, life stuff.
Where we're at. It's basically a full episode of the Corral Chronicles.
Yeah, exactly. So we got on this call a half an hour ago to, start the podcast, which we were going to talk about Track 101, which tune in next week for that one.
That is not happening.
That's not happening today because we were just like, we just started talking and we're like, let's just record this conversation. Like, yeah, just a conversation between the two of us about we've been talking about our races that we want to do this year, what we don't want to do. Things have changed, like for Toni, in terms of like life stuff, where we're going to be, all that kind of stuff. So we're like, why not just we're just hitting record. Yeah. So we just hit record and now we're going to just chat and you guys can listen in and it's like
we're all hanging out as friends. Yeah. Yeah. So should we start with you? Let's start with you, since we always do. And I don't know how to function with this conversation without starting with you. But since you always go first, how about you just share a little bit where your head's at, even with you and I talking offline, when we were texting back and forth yesterday of just kind of like ideas you've been having and where, I don't want to say where you've landed, but where you're at as of right now with everything.
Well, I'm still floating. I have not landed yet. I have still looking for my landing pad.
Still flying.
I'm still circling. So yeah. Okay. So the only race that is officially booked on my calendar right now is the Grandma's Half Marathon. I wasn't really sure what my goal was going to be for that. Had I not had to nurse my hamstring strain from middle of January until now, which by the way, it's like solid now, so we're good with that. Yay, I graduate PT on Thursday.
We need to celebrate.
I know. He told me I'm going to have a cap and gown. I think he was joking, but I'm going to be low-key disappointed if there isn't a cap and gown.
Just bring one yourself. See if you can Amazon one quick that I'll get there tomorrow.
Oh my God. So had that not happened, honestly, I probably would have run Buffalo because I was on such a high from Houston and Buffalo is local to me. So I was like, oh, let me go out and just like have an awesome local race. My family can come, my kids can come and watch. And then I had the hamstring strain. I was like, well, that's not going to happen now. I suppose I could, but it would more just be like a fun run than anything.
Yeah.
So I've decided not to do that. But then with Grandma's, yesterday we were going back and forth over text because I've been in just like a funk with my training. Like I'm still running, I'm still doing the work, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, what my coach tells me to. My last 2 long runs have been a bust where I just have like listen to the lazy side of myself, which I know I'm a coach. And if I'm taking my coach hat off for a second and I just be like, a human athlete for a second. Like I skipped it. I got lazy. I did not want to go out in the cold. I wanted to sleep in. When I sleep in, which is 7 a.m., by the way, I don't get to sleep in.
That, by the way, that is early. That's an early day for me.
Well,
someday.
Girl.
For right in this phase of life.
Your phase of life.
What blows my mind though, is when I worked full time for Lululemon and did coaching. I was a 5 a.m. runner, and that's just like a past life to me now though. Cause I remember doing like, I would have 6 a.m. shifts on like, I think it was Fridays, because I would do visual merchandising, and I would be out there starting at 4 a.m. for like 8-mile like workouts when I was marathon training. And I don't know who she is, but that's not me. She's gone. She'll come back in a few years when I don't have a choice. But anyways, sleeping in is 7 a.m. for you. Continue.
Yeah. So if I don't get out of the house, typically before my kids wake up for the long runs, if I'm just not like, if there's any hint of like lack of motivation there, I will just snuggle up on the couch with them instead, which is what I did. And it's fine. It's again, I'm training for grandmas, but in that moment, my goal for grandmas is to just have fun. It's really not my goal race for this year. So that's when I was texting you yesterday of like, I'm in the funk. I'm really mad at myself that I skipped my long run again. I'm doing everything Monday through Friday. I'm so disciplined Monday through Friday. But then come the weekend, I don't know. It is miserable here. I'm going to whine for a second. It is cold.
It's okay.
It is
the weather's
literally snowing right now.
Terrible.
Like,
yeah.
All week, the high is like 35. It is snowing. It is gray and dark. It is windy. It is cold. And I'm like, I'm so over this. Like we had like a couple days of like nice weather, so I got the taste of it, and now I'm like,
oh yeah, we've had like
75-degree
days.
Yes,
I can't go back now.
We can't go back. I am, and I'm struggling. So, anyways, when I was texting you, I was like, I'm in a funk. I need to get out of this funk. Maybe I need to actually set a goal for grandmas instead of just keep telling myself it's a fun run, because then I'm kind of being a little bit more lax. And then granted, it's only the last 2 weekends that I've been lax with my long run, but still, like when I know I've got something I'm working towards, I just tend to be like, I'm always very disciplined with my running, but I think I just need a little something extra right now to get me through the rest of the winter, because we're almost there. We're almost there. But so I think I'm going to like kind of come up with some sort of goal for grandmas. I don't think I'm going to put a time goal. And I liked how you said it yesterday, where you're like, don't put a time goal on it. You don't have to have a number. Just say you're going to race it. So whatever fitness level that lands you on race day, you're just going to show up and go.
Yep.
And then, because I put so much pressure on myself to hit that sub 140 mark, which was great. It was awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
And and I love that. But it's like, I don't have to hit a certain number.
Yeah. And I think it's so hard not to also, where it's like, okay, I checked this goal off my list. Now I have to try to like get better. And not saying that you wouldn't be working towards getting better, but it's okay if like every season you're not gunning for another PR, and it just kind of giving yourself that season to just be open-ended about it.
Right. And I mean, I will say that my mindset is always, I want to be better, faster, stronger.
Same.
Like, that's always a mindset that I have. I'm just incredibly competitive. And it's not like, I am totally fine. If I never raced another day in my life, I would be fine. I would be so content just running. I really would.
What changed that for me, because I used to be the opposite, was COVID. I used to never be that way. And then when I was forced to, like, I was just in the midst of training. Yeah. Like I was still, that's when I started working with Carly. But at that time, like I still had workouts. I was running 40-mile weeks. Like, and I had my long run and
there was no race on the
speed.
calendar.
There was no race. And I was like, this is so freaking fun. I think that I did when there was like virtual races happening, I did a 5K and I raced that. And that's like, it's not an official 5K, but it's technically my fastest 5K. But I just like had so much fun doing it. And so and we'll talk about me in a little bit, but yeah, that's where I'm just enjoying the season that I'm in now. Cause I'm like, I haven't just been training and not racing really, or having like a goal race in a while. And it's just so fun.
I mean, that's what I did basically all of last year after I had Charlie and I was getting back into running postpartum. I did not know that I was going to be doing Houston that following January. So it was from like January of, you did. It was from like January of 2023 to about September when training for Houston started. So I had like 8 to 9 months of just fun running, where I was building my mileage, I was building my workouts, I was building my fitness, I was doing 5Ks, I was doing mile time trials. Like I was really working on that like top end speed, but it wasn't there was no pressure. It was like, oh, going out for a 5K today. All right, no big deal. Like it was so fun. And as I was reflecting on like kind of what I want this year to look like, I was thinking about that. And I was like, that was just a very fun, freeing time. When I look back in my running, it's a very, when you look back, it's like, that's a positive time for me with my running. Like I look at it as like, oh, that's a happy time. Like if I scroll back to my Instagram and I see like those videos, I'm like, this was a happy period in my life. Like that was just like, I just liked that time.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think what's going to be for this year, I might, again, I'm still floating. I'm still circling the airport right now. I have not landed, but I might consider running the Houston full marathon. I kind of want to go back to Houston. If I do that, training officially would be like end of August, beginning of September or something like that. So I have from now, until then. And so what I kind of want to do, I know I have grandmas, but what I kind of want to continue focusing on from now with grandmas built in until end of August is my strength, and just kind of like that season again, just like last year, of just fun running, hanging out at 30 miles a week, which is my sweet spot, with a double-digit long run, with a 9-mile workout on a Wednesday. Like that is just a really sweet spot. It worked great for me last year. I want to do it again this year. But what I am going to start doing is changing my strength training and really focusing on like lifting heavier than I normally do, because what I see myself doing is, when the marathon, if I do Houston and I look at the marathon, I want to be strong AF going into that marathon to be able to get through it without an injury. And I mean, I always lift. I was a little lax with it during the half marathon cycle that I just went through. I think I'm usually pretty good with my lifting. I love lifting. I usually pretty structured with it. But I'm just gonna change it up a little bit and have that like add another day in. And like honestly, it'll be a lot, but I think it'll be a great season of speed and strength for me before going into just assuming I'm doing the marathon.
I think that's a great plan. And then that way you get to, especially again, sometimes when you have that long-term goal, because Houston is more long-term just because it's further out from now. But when you have that long-term goal, sometimes just knowing that you want to do everything that you need to get prepared for that, like that goal can be so exciting, and you're just so into it. Like you get excited about the lifting, you get excited about the workouts, where it's like, I know what I'm like preparing myself for, and like that can be your goal like for the year of like getting strong AF, fast AF, like going into that build. And I think that that's fun. And like how you were talking about what you were doing this time, I guess it would be this time last year, like before you started training for Houston, like it's nice because then you do get to have that like season of working towards something and you're being strategic about your training, but there also is that little bit of flexibility in that too. And I think that that's what makes those seasons so enjoyable, because that's exactly the outlook that I have when I think about 2020. Everything else about 2020 was pretty terrible, but like that part of life, business is like, everything with Relentless Runners like was good, but that part of my life was also great, because everything was just, I was just in my happy place. So I completely can relate to that.
Well, I love that, and I'm excited for it. I mean, I just have been in such a good place with my running in the last year. After coming back after having Charlie, so it's just a fun. I think that that's where, as coaches, we try to help our athletes see that side of it, where it's like, and I publicly announced that, and I chased it down, and I was very vocal about everything that I was doing and all that stuff. And I still had fun though throughout it. And I still, like, I look back and I was like, this was such a fun cycle. I was able to include my kids. They came to me with different time trials and different races that I built into the training cycle. And it was just like, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I was working hard. I really was training hard. Sacrifices were made per usual, but I had fun doing it. And I still was able to reach my goal. Had I not reached my goal, sure, I would have been bummed, but it would have just been like, all right, let's just keep trucking along. And it's like, I think that that's like part of what a lot of athletes and runners lose sight of is
Yes.
that they can have fun while also chasing down goals. Like you can
Yeah.
have an outcome goal, so AKA getting a PR, and a process goal at the same time. Like I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to run a 139. That was my outcome goal. I had a big number plastered. That was what I was going after. But I also wanted to learn so much about myself as a runner that had been lost over the years of just having kids back to back and just not really diving into that and tapping into that runner that I knew was there. So then to be able to have those process goals of I need to figure out how disciplined I can be. What's my willpower? What's my my internal motivators? Like learning myself
Mhm.
about myself that while also having an outcome goal. Those two things can they can live together. They
Yeah.
can. And I think sometimes runners lose sight of that. It's like my goal is to be cute or bust and I don't care if I'm having fun. I don't care if I'm enjoying this. I'm getting that goal and I'm going to lose sight of all the other side of it because I have set that goal and I'm going to do whatever I can. I don't care if I'm having fun. And I
Yeah.
mean, whatever, you might be
It's good.
miserable, but you can do both. You can have fun
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
I think that mentality only gets you so far too. I actually, if I am working with a newer athlete, and I've had this, and I know this because I used to be that athlete, like that person that had that thought process of like the BQ or bust, like that was literally me. And yeah, I just think that you lose sight on just the process and like what running can actually be and like where the enjoyment, like when you the reason why it's more miserable when you're so outcome focused is because you're not just enjoying being present. And I think that that's anything in life. So yeah,
Sure.
anytime I have an athlete that gets sucked into that, and it's always hard when someone's on the brink of a big goal that they've always wanted to achieve or like a barrier, anybody close to barriers, whether that's like breaking like 6, 5, 4, 3 hours in the marathon, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or like the sub 140, like any of those types of barriers in running at all distances can kind of, it's hard sometimes not to get sucked into that. And almost even sometimes I find myself where I've been around those barriers where I have to pull myself out of that a little bit of, that's okay to have that goal, but remember to focus on the task at hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Really exciting though.
it should
Like
be fun. Yeah.
I'm excited to see where the little birdie lands.
I don't know. Might float away forever. Well,
My
okay.
gosh.
So, what about you? Because you just had some recent changes in your life. So, why
Yeah.
don't you tell
So
everybody
exciting.
about that?
I know. Now I can share because Will
Yeah,
shared.
I saw that. I was like, oh, okay,
I didn't expect
cool.
that. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so my husband, he had retired from professional baseball spring of last year, and since then has just been on the hunt of like what's next, which when you played, professional baseball and essentially had a career for the last decade, I was proud of him for just taking the time to think about what he wants to do because it's a totally different career path. So he, thought about all the things of what different paths you can take and where he wanted to go, but he applied and got accepted into Georgetown's Masters of Sports Industry Management program. But we just found out on Friday, which was so exciting. So we were like full celebration mode all weekend.
That's awesome.
But yeah, with that, like you can do it online, you can do it in person, you can do a little bit of both. Like right now, the plan is to start online, like with his classes, and then see how that goes. And eventually, because it's like a cool area, just the surrounding area in DC is like cool too, but we'd like to go down eventually. But we're just gonna wait and see how things go, and then decide on like what that'll look like and when. But because things are up in the air with that, originally I had planned, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do a fall half. But because of like the shift, I really don't want to put pressure on myself to try to navigate training for something at the end of this year. And then also like we want to potentially visit my sister-in-law who lives in London. And if we are like moving, let's say it's like later in the year, like there could be a lot of moving parts. And I'm just enjoying my running so much right now, exactly what we were talking about before. Like that's where I'm at. Like I'm in my happy place with my workouts and the mileage and like all of that stuff. And I'm surprised at myself, but I'm just in a place where I'm like, I don't know if I want to train for a fall half anymore. Like I was actually thinking about Houston half.
Yes,
because
let's
you
do
had
it.
I know. But
no,
I was
I'm
like,
gonna
well,
pressure you to do it.
I know. But I was like, I still want, like, my heart is still in it to chase a really fast half. I know that I shared before that I have this goal of wanting to run a half in the sixes. Like, it's just that barrier, which I think puts me, like, whether it's a 90-minute half or 131 or 91 minutes, whatever it is. But that's something that I really want to work towards and do. So it's not like that changes, excuse me, which also tells me that means the goal is something that really does still excite me. But I just think that I might need a little bit more time. And I think pushing off that goal until early of next year just takes the pressure off. And what you were saying, like, I have the same mentality of just using this time now to work on getting faster and continue to work on building my strength, which is something I still, need to make sure that I'm prioritizing. And yeah, it just sounds like more enjoyable. So that's like where my head's at. But I'm like, you just feel silly sometimes. You're like, this is what I'm going to do. And then like life like can change like so quickly. And I'm very like go with the flow with everything right now. But, that's life. Like stuff pops up all the time and it's so exciting. Like I could not be more happy about the reasons why of like wanting to pivot and change things. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. But I have been thinking about, I was like, if I didn't do something in the fall and I pushed it a little bit because I really want to run a really fast half, then that's where Houston would be, I think. Good.
All right. Sorry if you could hear Maverick barking. My dad was outside my front door. He needed my crock pot. So I had to stop and go get him my crock pot.
First of all, what is your dad making?
First of all, nothing. It was not, he is not making it. He was just the delivery man getting the crock pot for my mother, apparently. She texted my dad and my sister today in a group message. Has anyone seen my crock pot? And we're like, we don't live in your house. We don't know where your crock pot is, Mom. So I was like, do you need a crock pot? Because you can use mine.
Oh my gosh.
My dad was getting
so
the
funny.
crock pot, but he gave no warnings or else I would have told him I was on a podcast. So
yeah.
Anyways, okay, back to Houston. I feel like I'm conniving over here because of how you made just because I feel like the tables are turned now, where last year, if you listen to any of our earlier podcasts when we were building up for Houston, I shared how I had no intention of running a half marathon, but Toni, you planted the seed in my head and you like encourage because you were going to run it and then you didn't. So then it was just me running it. So now I'm like, okay, I think you should run the half and I'll run the full. And if I decide the full is not in the cards, because it's been 10 years since I've run a full marathon.
It doesn't feel that long ago.
It was before Carter was born. He just turned 7.
Which one did you run?
The last one I ran was Corning Wine Glass. And that was 2014. So it'll be like the end of this year will be 10 years, which makes me feel really old. And
it's okay.
So I'm kind of like,
we're getting up there.
I kind of feel like maybe it's the year. Like maybe
just do it.
So here's my thing. As long as my routine stays the same with like consistently getting my runs done, like in the morning, kids schedule, all that stuff. Like as long as things stay pretty chill, like the way they are now, then there's no reason why I can't just beef it up a little bit. If something were to change, then like all of a sudden I can't stay consistent, that's when I would be like, I don't know if I want to like do this right now, but
sure.
Yeah. So either way, like even if I had to drop to the half, we could both go and have like awesome halves. It's a fast course. It's a fun course. Either way. So whether I do the half or the full, I say, mark us down. We're going to Houston.
Oh my God. My athlete Jess is going to be so excited because Jess.
Jen, she lives there. She's going to be excited too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I've worked with Jess forever and her husband works with James. It's like in the family and we're obsessed about it.
Love it.
But apparently her husband is considering the Houston full for his full marathon. So they would be there.
That's exciting.
Oh my God. We just have too many reasons to go.
Yeah, I don't see any reasons not to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, again, you are in a season of change. You're so
I am.
You're in a season of change. So I will obviously never force you to do anything, but I've planted the seed just like you did to me last year. And I will continue to grow that seed That sounds weird.
I will
but-
nourish it and water it. And I almost said sunshine it, but
sunshine it, sunlight it,
sunlight it.
Yep.
But
You're gonna do
yeah,
it.
so we'll see about that. Do you have any is there any hesitations that you have about running the full?
I'm worried I'm gonna get hurt. I think that's probably like,
is that like the number one thing?
I mean, I'm usually really strong. This hamstring injury, which I don't even want to call it an injury, I was still running through it. It was just a little thing that popped up. Like, it didn't really set me back, but that's the first quote injury that I've had since my stress fracture back like 5 years ago. What was that? 2019, I think. So like, I pride myself on being really strong in that sense. Like, I don't get injured a lot. Oh my God, knock on wood. I can't believe I just put that out into the universe. But so, I mean, yes, I know, right? So that is a fear, but I also can't let that like stop me. But that's also why I really want to focus on my strength training this year going into it. And then I obviously already know I have a solid plan to follow with like our strength program to like keep me strong during the marathon cycle itself. But like leading up to that, I want to change things a little bit and just get like I said, like really strong. I would say that I think the long runs can be intimidating a little bit. You know, just with going out like during the fall time, just because I just did Houston, I understand what that time of year brings for me. My kids are in football. This coming fall, so during marathon training, my kids will be in 2 different leagues, where last year they were in the same league and it was very time consuming. This year it's going to be like twice as time consuming. Carter will go to tackle and Caleb will stay in flag football. And it's like 5 hours, like every Saturday for like 3 months during the fall time, we will be at football games. It's travel and it'll be one flag first, then tackle. And like, we're going to be there for like 4 or 5 hours. And it's like, that's going to be after I just ran 16 miles. So it's like, I mean, I was already doing that for the half, but like 10, 11, 12 miles. Like, I think I went up to like 13 miles. Like, so there's a big difference between that. And so that's kind of part of my, like, if I'm going to do it, I have to get my nutrition. Like, I'm pretty good about my nutrition, but I have times where I underfuel unintentionally just because of life. And you can't afford to do that with a marathon, with the goals that I will have for this marathon. Because this is not going to be for me just I just want to run
not a fun run.
It's not going to be a fun run. I'm going balls to the walls, yo. It is going to be I'm going all out racing this marathon. And in order to do that, to belong in that type of training, I have to show up with all the other pillars. And so I have my doubts about myself. So if I can get a grip on that, like consistently going in, I will feel so confident. The strength will be there. You know, everything else will be there. It's really going to be the nutrition. So I think I just like doubt myself a little bit when it comes to that. And that's like one of the things holding me back. But honestly, like I think there's just a fear because I haven't done it. It is scary. Long.
You know? I even remember feeling that way. Like, I felt like I needed more time. And I remember after I ran my half in 2022 in the fall, and then I was like, okay, I need more time. So I'm going to work on doing a spring half, and then I'll do a fall full. And then I was not excited about the spring half. I signed up for the Pittsburgh half, and I'm like, okay. I'm just like going through the motions, and then I found myself literally like a month later looking up, well, what spring fools exist that I could do. And at first I just was kind of ramping it up to, it needed to be this like, I don't know, I needed to train for a major, and I don't know why I did that to myself. But anyways, I changed my mind, and then I ended up running Bayshore, and it was amazing. And I'm so glad. But I was really nervous. It's just one of those things where you just never feel prepared enough.
I can understand all of that. And I don't want to, it's not like I'm living in fear. It's more just like, am I ready? I know that I need to tackle the marathon. This was one of the things I was saying to you yesterday, Toni, of just like, I have not run a marathon since having kids. I've done tons of half marathons because that is such a good balance of distance and time commitment for me that I can manage without it really interrupting my life, where the marathon is a whole different beast to tackle. And how I was telling you yesterday, like, I feel like I am being called to the marathon distance. And it was especially after I ran Houston. And when my coach threw out some numbers of what she knew I was capable of after what I did in Houston, I was like, well, shit.
That's
now
how
I got to
she
go see if
gets
I can do
you.
it. Now I got to go
That's how
prove to
she
myself I
gets
can do it.
you. Yep. Yeah.
I was like, oh
But
my
that's-
gosh, you really think I'm capable of that? I need to go see if I'm capable of that. So it's like this huge curiosity that like the marathons I've run in the past have always been to prove something, whether to myself or to someone else. I will admit that that was over a decade. That was a decade ago, whatever. But this time is so different. It's not, I could care less what anyone thinks, or I don't have to prove anything to anyone. This is out of pure curiosity at this point. What can I do now that I will be 35 when running it, a mom of 3? What the heck can I do? Like, I feel like super curious about that. It has nothing to do with like, I have to run this time. I have to do this to prove myself or anything like that. It's very different. And so like that excites me because it's a completely different mindset going in.
Yeah. No, that's when you know that you're at a good place with it and it's like a appropriate goal, we'll say, to like go after. But yeah.
Oh, so, well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
See.
Yeah. I got to do it, I say, in the next like year or two before my kids get. That's what I was telling you yesterday too. Of like, so my sister has 3 kids who are a little older, like 12, 10, and 8, and they're in tons of sports. Just like they're constantly going to sports, and they're like late at night, and they're getting home. They're eating dinner at like 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know that that's reality. I used to do that as a kid, but like I'm not ready for that in my life right now. And it's not going to be that long off. Like Carter's 7. It's not going to be that far off before we're doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
And not that you can't train for a marathon in that type of lifestyle, but I'm like, I feel like I need to do it before all of that starts. Sure. Like right now we are in such a good routine. The kids are in bed by 7:30 p.m. I get some alone time at night. I get up early and run. Like it is so structured right now. And I feel like I need to take advantage of that.
It's like take advantage of it now.
I feel like I need to. So anyways, we'll see. So if you didn't run Houston half, first of all, you have to come and spectate me if I run the full. So that's already going to happen, obviously. But if you didn't run that and maybe you wanted to push it and you just weren't ready with all the life changes that you've got going on this year, is there a spring half that you could choose? Like what would be your top 3 spring halves that you would choose instead of Houston?
It's so hard because honestly, this is where I've been back and forth because I had it in my head that I would do a spring full marathon. And I think because I wanted to, if I would run a marathon, I would want to do it to still try to qualify for Boston, like for the next,
in the same year that I do.
Obviously. So like, that's why, honestly, when you're like, I want to do a marathon, I was like, well, I want to do a marathon and I want us to both qualify for Boston, and so we can run at the same
Boston
year.
In 2000, it would be 2026.
I think that's a good reason to want to run a marathon and try to qualify. Yeah, but like I think that would be so fun and special. So
okay, so you could just
that's what I'm grappling
not
with.
do a half at all.
I could.
No one says you have to do a half. No one says you have to run Houston. No one says you have to run a half in the fall. You could maybe do one as your build
up to the spring,
right? Yeah, as like a training run more so than anything. Yeah. Which I was thinking about that too. I was like, I would probably want to do like a half.
Eugene's been on my radar. It's always
for the
it's
full.
Interesting for the full because that was one that I remember thinking about. Like when I chose Bayshore instead, I think that I wasn't excited enough about like how expensive the trip would have been to like fly out there. I was like, I just wasn't as pumped. But now that's just changed for whatever reason. I don't know.
Okay.
But Eugene, I don't know. If I got into London, that would be cool because then I could just chill with my sister-in-law. Destination Marathons also they have an option where like they have London as well. To try to go. You can go through them and do London. I think they have a wait list though. But yeah, I don't know what other ones. Bayshore. I don't want to do Bayshore again. I love Traverse City so much, you know that, but I want to do something else. And then part of me, like, I love the types of race weekends that are like semi-local are also really nice. Like when I went to Columbus, that's 3 hours away. Like that was also nice, like something a little bit closer. So I don't know, I'm pretty open-ended, but I do like the idea of like a spring full and then a half like in the build up, because I just would love to do a half still, since that is like a goal of mine.
I think it's good to do that, like leading up. You could always come out and do Buffalo, and you could stay with me. It's a flat. I mean, there's some like little rollers, but it's a good course. It's not a bad course.
It's a good course. Yeah.
The only thing about the course I will say is that like the majority of people run the half, so the marathon can get like lonely, I guess you could say. Yeah, like I spectated this past year. I'll go out again because I have an athlete running it. But I spectated it last year, and I sat at like, I don't know, it was like mile 25. It was like at the end.
Yeah.
And it would be like, oh, there goes a person. Oh, there goes another. It was like it is quiet. I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing.
So when I ran Bayshore, that is like the smallest marathon I've ever ran. And it's just, it's cool because it's an out and back course, which that's the first time I did that. And I didn't mind it because the views were just amazing. You're like right on the waterfront. And it was like the most, when I was in my pain cave, I just kept looking left and I'm like, like looking out on the water, like this is so pretty.
Distraction.
And I just forgot about all the pain. But it's cool because the half marathoners like filter in with you when you're turning back, and they do it in a way where it's not too crowded because it's small enough to where it makes the race feel bigger than what it is.
Okay.
And everyone is cheering for each other. And then people, it's on a peninsula, like on one side of the peninsula. So like all the people that live there or like out in their driveways and they're cheering, but it's just, it's super quiet. But that was the first time I did a really, really small marathon. And I didn't mind it. Like, I think because I just love the area and stuff so much too, it was awesome. And it was good if you want to run fast too. Cause it's just a straight shot out.
Right.
And back,
you don't have to like zigzag flat. Either too around people
worrying about tangents and stuff. But yeah, so I think after that experience, I'm like, oh, if I could run a marathon like that small, then I could do it. You anywhere. Can do anything. Like that doesn't. Yeah. But that's a good idea too.
Yeah. I mean, you can always say it's like an hour from here, so it's not that far.
I remember but it being like kind of close.
Yeah. It's like an hour, but it's not that far. We go out to Buffalo all the time. So anyways, I feel like for me, for this, since I have not done a marathon in so long, I would not want that. I want the crowd support. I want the people. I think that. Just like at least for my first one back after 10 years of not running one, I feel like because like Houston was great. The energy was awesome. Now also I did the half. I don't know what the full is like, but we split at one point and then they go out and do like this big rectangle looking thing, but then they come back and we finish. I don't even remember when they merged with us. I do not remember where these people came from.
When you're just like tunnel vision.
I was total tunnel vision. They were just there all of a sudden. But the end is like super electric at Houston, and you've got that like that was shoot so going cool. Down, and that was
that was tunnel
awesome.
The shoot. Yeah, that was the coolest thing. So just like cheering, people. Like it was big. It was amazing. It was so awesome.
Yeah. So if I actually, now that I say what I just said, I don't think there was really any marathoners finishing at the time that I was finishing. Because I finished in an hour and 39 minutes. There were no marathoners finishing that. So no wonder I didn't see them come in. I'm dumb.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever. So
I didn't even think about it. No, it's fine.
But yeah, I feel like I would need that kind of crowd support a little bit.
No, I do understand that. I get that. I think the thing that's hard about the spring is that there's not a lot of those like, there are some of those bigger races, but not like a ton compared to the fall, honestly, for a marathon at least. But no, I get that. Like I get like wanting to have that completely. And it's also like knowing yourself too and just what you want. And if that's going to add to the experience, like that's what matters, is whatever's going to make you like most excited and get you pumped about it. But but things to think about. I feel like I'm walking away from this conversation
wanting to run Houston half.
Wanting to run the Houston half. Yeah. I'm just gonna think about things.
Yeah.
Not the full.
Me too. I actually think I'm starting to land. I'm landing, guys. I'm landing.
We're coming down.
Watch out.
If you can't see us, we have wings with our hands. Christine, I don't know what she's doing. She's like the people on the runway directing the plan.
Person on the runway.
Yeah. I thought that's what it was. Oh man.
Okay.
We'll cut this out or cut this while we're ahead. But guys, thanks for just joining us for a chat today. This was a good one, a full episode, Corral Chronicles episode, basically. And like we said, the plan was track 101, but we're gonna save that for next week. But we have it all planned, so we're excited to talk to you guys about that.
At least we don't have to figure that out this week.
Yeah,
we've
we're
already got that one
got
done.
all our notes. We're ready to go.
We're ready.
But we can't wait to chat with you guys next week too. And thanks as always for being here.